Hello, this is Jamie Mitchell, and we are back for another episode of the Libertarian Uncensored podcast, going over all the posts on the Libertarian Uncensored subreddit. Let's get right into it. So first we have, DeSantis rejects climate change rationale for record-breaking rain. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis and his administration are pushing back against assertions that storm has anything to do with climate change. From the Washington Post, by CH4Locks, and that's a cross quotes from the News of the Stupid subreddit, and I said, floods were a thing before they started pushing climate change as well. And that's my thoughts on that issue. I definitely think climate change might be real. With that being said, I definitely do think it's being overstated, and I think it's just another thing for the media to fearmonger about. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have a California law banning hidden fees goes into effect next month from nytimes.com by Baton 13. And I personally don't think that's very libertarian, because that's more government regulation. I think more government regulation isn't good. I think it's well-intentioned, yes, but, well-intentioned things don't always have the best results, as, Reason has a good series on that. Good intentions don't always equal good results. And that was, yeah. Then we have, poor white people in Appalachia were not being unreasonable for being vaccine skeptics after big pharma and regulatory negligence caused the opioid crisis that destroyed their families, communities, and health. And that's a cross post that I made from the r/stupid Paul subreddit. And the post says, I saw a post recently discouraging people for disparaging people in that region for being backwards and stupid, for generally being more vaccine skeptic, and that they deserve the higher rate of COVID deaths for being backwards hicks in typical regular fashion. I also just finished watching Dope Sick on Hulu, and holy shit, what the big pharmaceutical companies, particularly Purdue Pharma, did to them, and how the regulatory agencies were so negligent when they weren't bought off was infuriating to see. I think on this issue they are wrong. I don't know how anyone can see what happened to them and blame them for never trusting a pharmaceutical company or government spokesperson telling them this new treatment was also rushed due to the circumstances obviously completely safe. No way those people were ever going to buy that, and it's not because they're dumb backwater idiots worthy of scorn. I just find it ironic how the media and health agencies were bending over backwards to make excuses for certain groups being skeptical because of events generations ago, but have nothing but scorn for those whose skepticism is born out of an event that started less than a generation ago and is still ongoing. And I said, the Democrat position is that poor rural white people equals MAGA, therefore bad and wrong. They are the same people who go from, I'm not taking Trump's trash vaccine, to, you need to be vaccinated or else, without blinking an eye. And that's my thoughts on that issue. I think, get vaccinated or don't, I don't care, but vaccine mandates are by no means libertarian and go against bodily autonomy. Then we have Wisconsin Republicans block PFAS cleanup until polluters are granted immunity. Accountability is too woke, from TheGuardian.com by CH4Locks, and that's a cross post from the Not for the Onion subreddit. And yeah, I definitely do think that's not good. But yeah, I think if people want to clean it up, I think they should be able to. But ultimately, it depends on what the people want, I guess. And if sometimes pollution is a byproduct of stuff, if we got rid of all pollution, then we probably wouldn't have any materials at all besides extremely basic materials, and that's not the recipe for a sustainable lifestyle, I think, these days. And so I definitely do think they shouldn't be granting the polluters immunity. But that being said, pollution is something that sometimes a side effect of the increasingly industrialized world that we live in today. And that's my thought on that issue. Then we have real water that poisoned dozens of contained chemical from rocket fuel, hydrazine, induced liver failure, from rstudio.com by CH4Locks, and they added FDA regulations for so-called uncontaminated water eventually put this small company out of business. And I said, maybe people should have done more research on what they were buying. I think if they knew that the water contained hydrazine, they shouldn't have been selling. I think that you could argue that's a NAT violation. If that being said, I don't want the government to regulate all businesses because of health reasons and all that. I think people should do research on what they're buying rather than ask daddy government for help. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have woke is when you take something that any normal person would want to know that's actually white supremacy from the Atlantic, and that's the story they had. I posted that, and that story they had. Why do rich people love quiet? The sound of gentrification is silence. And I said, I'm sorry, I prefer quiet over loudness. Now loudness is really overstimulating me as an autistic person. And I also added, it looks like they mean it quite literally, not metaphorically. It's like if you want to quiet, you might as well be a white supremacist. It's like that's why no one takes that label seriously anymore. If you dissent at all, you're gonna get the label. And that's increasingly why they've abstracted into stuff like like apples are white supremacist, the nuclear family is white supremacist, etc., etc. Like that chart the Smithsonian put out, like all the aspects and assumptions of white culture in the United States, and it's all like traditional normal stuff, people's things that people see as normal. That's why I think no one really takes that label of white supremacy seriously anymore. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have Missouri abortion ban wasn't about lawmakers imposing religious beliefs, Judge says, from APnews.com by Swamp Yankee Dan. And yeah, I didn't put a comment on that one, but yeah, I guess you could make the argument that they cited religion in their argument. But with that being said, it ultimately comes down to who has the force, economic capital, and social capital to do what. And sadly, the judge here is all judges are going to be biased to some extent, and that's why I personally am not the biggest fan of having a centralized legal system. Everyone's just gonna be biased to their cause, and that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we are living in a South Park episode from Asmongold Clips on YouTube, and I posted that, and I said, the real crazy thing is that the council member who pushed for it, the drag queen baby a girl, has a decent chance of being elected to the U.S. House this fall since the incumbent Adam Schiff is running for Senate and they placed second last time. And I linked to the Wikipedia page. Never mind, it looks like they didn't get top 2 in the primary. With that being said, I like Asmongold's poll in this video. There are tons of other problems in California currently, but somehow this is the one that was most pressing to them, getting rid of these no U-turn signs because they felt they discriminated against gay people. I'm not going to say they didn't have any point at all, but there are definitely more urgent matters to attend to, and that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have, what's the chances that Biden beats Trump, in your opinion, from Monstory on X? And I posted that, and I said, I think Biden probably wins. People are getting better at questioning the narrative, but there are still a lot of blue NPCs out there who believe whatever the MSN says. I would also argue that Trump was a much better candidate in 2016 when he ran as an outsider compared to the candidate he is today. And I think a lot of everyone but his most devout supporters are probably suffering from at least some Trump fatigue at this point, so there's probably that as well. So I think Biden's going to win, even if most people can agree that he's nothing but like a husk of a man. But with that being said, I definitely do think people are really tired of Trump, but I could see Trump taking it as well. Regardless, I don't think it will change. I think the next 4 years are just going to be full of orange man bad regardless until Trump dies and they move on to the next boogeyman. Then we have Maryland governor to pardon step 175,000 marijuana convictions in sweeping order from WashingtonPost.com by Ninja Lover. And, yeah, I didn't comment on that one, but I do think that's good. That's my thoughts on that issue. And we have Trump is lionizing January 6 rioters as warriors. Could the dog whistle be any louder? From LATimes.com by Swamp Yankee Dan. And, yeah, I definitely agree that's not too good, but, I definitely do think they're trying to milk January 6th for all it's worth, and I think a lot of people are kind of over that by now, and that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have states where Pornhub will be blocked as of January 1st, 2024. Mandatory ID tracking of users required by state, and that's from CH4Locks, and they cross-posted from the Matt Porn subreddit. And I said, porn, like smoking, isn't good for you, but the libertarian position is that you should be able to watch it as long as it's not child porn. Of course, on Reddit, porn is practically a religion. And then CalDog Curmudgeon replied to me, porn is good for you based upon what date? And I said, me, jacking off in front of a screen all day isn't good for you. Reddit, source, and people here call me the incel, shaking my damn head. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have Republicans show how much they care for the American people by their priorities in Congress. Fealty to leader of country from Imgur.com by CH4Locks, and that's crosswords from the White People Twitter subreddit. It's a tweet from the user at JodyPP1948. It's a fucking cult. No one to help America. And then she quotes the tweet from Scott McFarlane. Latest review of U.S. House legislation shows GOP proposals to require U.S. Treasury to print $500 below Trump's portrait, rename Dole's Airport in Virginia after Trump, rename U.S. coastal economic zones after Trump, award Trump a Congressional Gold Medal. And I said, Republicans bad on Reddit, and I linked to a clip from SpongeBob, Squidward saying, daring today, aren't we? You know, the Republicans aren't libertarian with a few exceptions like Thomas Massey or Rand Paul, but they are controlled opposition if anything. Conservatism conserves absolutely nothing. Reddit will always go after them while never meaningfully going after the Democrats, though. And that's my thought on that issue. Then we have Iowa restaurant lobby plays stupid games, wins stupid prizes from bleedingheartland.com by Ninja Lover, and that's an article, from Bleeding Heartland, and I said, child labor laws are often well-intentioned, but they aren't libertarian. A child has a right to sell their labor just like an adult does. And then Jill ever replied, children can consent, and I said, I agree on that for some things like sex and non-life-saving surgeries, but I do think teens should be able to work at McDonald's if they want to. My mother used to work for a neighboring school district, and she said one of her most prevalent tasks was filling out forms that would let children be able to get jobs if they felt like it. And, yeah. Like Willpower 69 says, so child labor is okay, but kids being LGBTQ is bad. So what do you not defend it on the dumbest sense? I said, kids being LGBTQ is fine. I just don't think they can consent to sex or a lot of the stuff that's marketed as quote-unquote gender-affirming care also might just be a phase. You know, when I was a boy, a lot of kids my age were having emo phases. LGBTQ kids are just kind of the modern equivalent of that, I think. Soon it's going to be replaced by something else. And that's my thoughts on that issue. And we have liberals definitely have cognitive dissonance when they vigorously defend the permanent administrative state while simultaneously claiming to support democracy, from Thomas Massey on X, and I posted that, and I said, don't forget the unelected global bodies as well, like the UN, ICC, WHO, etc., etc. And, yeah, I definitely don't think that's very, you know, the thing with the Democrats is they're so, it's all about our democracy. Well, they want the unelected global bodies and the administrative state and the expert class to make all the rules and not elected officials. And that's my fault on that issue, you know. That's why, you know, it's always important to remember that the only standards that most people have are double. Then we have the Dem Party hack at SpeechBoy71 argued in 2012 that the GOP used to be reasonable and mainstream until it fell under the spell of radical far-right extremists John McCain and Mitt Romney, like calling everyone a Kremlin agent. Their scripts never changed from Glenn Greenwald on X, and I posted that, and I said, I think that's a big reason for the rise of Trump. If a candidate as milquetoast as Romney was going to get slandered, why not just bite the bullet and go all out? And that's my thoughts on that issue. And then another comment category says, another example of extremist authoritarian posting by so-called I don't realize I'm a Nazi because I'm so busy reading all the alt-right borderline white supremacists on Twitter. And I said in response, Glenn Greenwald, a gay man who adopted black children, is an alt-right borderline white supremacist. If you wonder why those labels have no meaning anymore, it shouldn't be too hard to figure out. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have, and I also said something else I wanted to add that I said in that one was, I think I would argue in George W. Like a lot of those guys, like George W. Bush was the worst President Trump pretty much every way because they're saying like, oh, Romney, McCain, and George W. Bush weren't that bad in these comments. I said the Iraq War and Patriot Act were far worse than January 6th, and unlike when Trump, there seems to be no interest knowing which account like there was in the 2000s. The fact that he and a lot of his ilk, like John Bolton and Dick Cheney, have been rehabilitated is a lot about how people just follow the media narratives more than anything else. I think that's definitely something that's important to consider. A lot of people will just follow whatever the media narrative is. That's kind of like how the rise of the NPC meme. They just will follow whatever the TV tells them to, and they won't question anything they're told as long as it falls in line with their programming enough. And that's my thoughts on that issue. And we have Libertarian Party of Florida calls for LNC investigation into convention vote validity from independentpoliticalreport.com by Padon 13. That's cross-sourced from Libertarian Party USA subreddit. And I personally just think they should just admit that they lost and just admit that Chase Oliver is the nominee. I don't think they should be forced to support Chase Oliver or vote for him. But sometimes you can't always get what you want, and you just can't be. But increasingly that's what the U.S. politics increasingly is. If your candidate loses the election, you're just going to go, it's rigged, and they stole it. And that's my thoughts on that issue. And then we have $1 trillion interest out every year, the crushing reality of federal debt from John Stossel on YouTube, and I posted that, and I said Like Donkey posted, he said, "E-solution, dial back military spending." And I said, "My solution is decentralization. You can't have a centralized state if you don't have a centralized government. Regardless, I don't think we're getting rid of the national debt anytime soon. Hopefully, it won't crush us too bad when it does crush us eventually." And that's my thoughts on that issue. I think we're going to wrap up there. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye.